On July 4th, 1992, one of the most famous tourist places in America suddenly stopped feeling like a vacation spot. The Grand Canyon turned into a war zone. Helicopters circled above the trees. Police cars blocked the roads. Bloodhounds moved through the forest. And more than 400 officers were searching for one man. But they were not looking for a lost tourist. They were hunting a fugitive who had escaped prison, taken hostages, fired at police, and vanished through the Arizona wilderness like a ghost. His name was Danny Ray Horning, and by that day, police believed one terrifying thing. If he felt cornered, someone could die. To some people watching the news, he became Rambo. To the officers chasing him, he was something much darker. Danny was not just running from prison. He was running from 4 life sentences and a murder case waiting for him in California. And still, every trap they built around him seemed to break. By the time the Grand Canyon was locked down, Danny Horning had already proved something terrifying. Roadblocks were not enough. Helicopters were not enough. Dogs were not enough. Hundreds of armed officers were not enough. And before the day was over, he would prove it one more time. But to understand how one man could shut down part of the Grand Canyon, we have to go back before the escape, before the hostages, before the helicopters, before the name Rambo appeared in the headlines, because Danny Ray Horning was not born as a legend. He became one because people forgot what he really was. Danny Horning was a violent criminal, a bank robber, a fugitive, and later a convicted murderer. This was not a man simply trying to survive for freedom. This was a man willing to turn innocent people into tools for escape. And the first real sign of how dangerous he was appeared in California in 1990. Near the San Joaquin River Delta, a fisherman saw something floating in the water. At first, it looked like trash. Then police were called. Over the next days, investigators found more remains. The victim was identified as Sammy McCullough, a fish farmer known to keep large amounts of cash at his home. Investigators believe the killing happened during a robbery, and soon one name began appearing in the case: Danny Ray Horning. But Danny was not in custody. He was already moving, and the man suspected in the California killing did not disappear quietly. He started robbing banks across the western United States. In March of 1991, Danny walked into a bank in Winslow, Arizona, carrying a 9mm handgun. He stole around $25,000, but he did not just run out with the money. He took a hostage with him. That detail told police exactly what kind of man they were dealing with. Danny was not afraid to involve innocent people if it helped him escape. When he was captured after that robbery, he later said that if he had the chance, he would have shot the officer who stopped him. That one sentence revealed the mindset behind everything that was about to happen next. Danny was convicted for robbery, kidnapping, and aggravated assault. The sentence was brutal: 4 consecutive life terms. For most criminals, that would be the end. But Danny looked at 4 life sentences and saw something completely different. He saw freedom from fear. Because if you are already serving 4 life sentences, what more can the system really threaten you with? That idea became the foundation of his escape. Inside the Arizona State Prison in Florence, Danny started studying, not books, not law. He studied the prison itself. He watched the movement of staff, the timing of doors, the uniforms, the routines. Most prisons are built to stop violence, but sometimes the quietest escape is the one nobody expects. And on May 12, 1992, Danny Horning did not fight his way out. He simply changed what people thought they were seeing. Danny dressed like a state medical worker. Then he walked through the prison as if he belonged there. He did not dig a tunnel. He did not start a riot. He did not take a hostage. He used confidence. A man serving 4 life sentences put on a disguise and walked out of prison. That is what made the escape so frightening. It was not an explosion. It was not a shootout. It was a quiet mistake repeated at every checkpoint. By the time officials realized Danny was missing, he was already outside the walls, and the Arizona desert was waiting for him. Police sent helicopters. They used dogs. They searched the empty spaces around the prison. But Danny kept moving north, toward the rough forests and mountains near the Mogollon Rim. This was an area he knew from his younger years. And for a fugitive like Danny, the wilderness was not a threat. It was cover. Danny had military survival training. He had spent 11 months in Army reconnaissance, not years in elite special forces like some later exaggerated, but enough to understand terrain, patience, concealment, and movement. He knew how to turn nature into a weapon against the men chasing him. He moved through rough country. He broke into empty cabins for food and supplies. He stole what he needed and vanished again. Sometimes he left notes. Sometimes he left audio recordings. And in one strange detail, he even thanked cabin owners while taunting police at the same time. This was not just survival anymore. It was psychological warfare. Danny wanted police to know he had been there. He wanted them to feel close. And then he wanted them to realize they were still too late. Every empty cabin became a message. I was here, and you missed me. Officers started calling him Rambo. He walked in circles. He moved in figure-8 patterns to confuse tracking dogs. He used the terrain like cover. He survived on plants, stolen food, and whatever he could take from isolated cabins. Every time search teams thought they had him trapped, the trail went cold. Danny was not just running away. He was making the search teams feel helpless. And that is the most dangerous kind of fugitive. Not the one who panics, the one who enjoys the chase. But the wilderness could only protect him for so long. Eventually, even Danny needed food, water, and transportation. On June 25, 1992, that need turned into terror for two people in Flagstaff, Arizona. Danny approached Adam Lakritz and Catherine Falk in a parking lot. He forced his way into their car at gunpoint. Then he ordered them to drive. But this was not just a random carjacking. Danny had a plan. During the drive, Danny told them he wanted to kidnap a family with small children. He wanted $1 million. He wanted his brother released from jail. And he wanted to trade human lives for freedom. At that moment, the manhunt changed from a fugitive search into a hostage crisis. Then he forced the couple to take him to the Grand Canyon. They spent the night at the El Tovar Hotel, one of the most famous lodges on the South Rim. While helicopters and officers searched the wilderness, Danny Horning was inside a historic hotel with two hostages hiding in plain sight. Danny tried to turn the threat into reality. He targeted a family in a motorhome, a family of 6. He pulled a gun and told them they were his hostages. But one family member escaped and alerted a Grand Canyon Park ranger. That one escape may have saved multiple lives. The ranger responded fast. Danny forced the original couple back into the vehicle. A chase began, and during that chase, he fired at park officers through the rear window and out the side of the car. Bullets were now flying in the Grand Canyon, not in a movie, but in a real national park full of tourists. Somehow, Danny escaped again. He left the couple behind and disappeared into the woods. By now, the story was all over the news. Some people started treating him like an outlaw legend. But law enforcement knew the truth. They were not chasing a rebel. They were chasing a violent man using strangers as shields. 3 days later, on June 29th, Danny tried again. He attempted to abduct another couple at gunpoint in a Grand Canyon picnic area. They managed to escape, but Danny stole their car and vanished one more time. At this point, the manhunt became the largest Arizona had ever seen. Roadblocks backed up traffic near the park. Search teams moved through trails and forest. Tourists were warned. Officers faced one terrifying question. How do you catch a man who only needs one tourist car to disappear? The answer seemed simple. Close the exits, search the woods, wait for one mistake. On July 4th, more than 400 officers were searching the Grand Canyon. Police feared Danny might take hostages again, shoot at officers again, or use one tourist car to vanish forever. The entire park was tense. Every roadblock was waiting for him. But Danny did not run through the forest this time. He walked straight into his next escape plan. At the Grand Canyon, Danny entered a rental car occupied by 2 British tourists, Sally Edmonds and Caroline Young. He got into the back seat with a gun and forced one of them to drive. In seconds, a dream vacation became a nightmare. Outside, police were everywhere. Inside the car, one wrong move could get them killed. The most shocking part was that the roadblocks worked against the police. Officers were searching for Danny, hiding in the wilderness. They were not expecting him to calmly ride out of the park inside a tourist rental car. The women stayed silent because the man behind them had nothing left to lose. He forced the women to stop near Red Lake, about 45 miles south of the canyon. He tied them to a tree, took their money, and drove away in their car. They survived, but now Danny had a new vehicle. But this time, he was not invisible for long. A state police officer spotted the stolen rental car. Danny pushed the car to extreme speed, reportedly around 100 miles per hour. Then he fired at the officer. The chase exploded across Arizona roads until Danny lost control, crashed, and ran into the woods near Sedona. Late that night, a homeowner near Sedona saw something strange in the yard. A man was drinking from an outside water hose. When she looked closer, she realized who it was. Danny Ray Horning. Police arrived with bloodhounds, followed the trail, and finally found him hiding under a backyard gazebo. Danny was armed with a loaded revolver, but this time he did not fight. He surrendered without incident. After 53 days, the chase was over. In 1995, Danny Ray Horning was convicted of the first-degree murder of Sammy McCullough and sentenced to death. The man who walked out of prison in a disguise vanished into the wilderness and turned the Grand Canyon into a hunting ground was locked away again. This time, the myth was over.